And thank you so much for your support of the ministry. We will want to get out to you as quickly as we can a copy of the book, The Bible and You by Dr. Craig Evans. It's something you'll certainly enjoy, not only for yourself, but pass it on to someone else. All right, your support means so much to us. It helps us in a variety of areas, both near and far, as we say, not only overseas, but here in Canada as well. In our own backyard, there are various mission fields that we can reach out to. And someone who has been doing just that recently, in fact, he's in Thunder Bay right now, is our Crossroads CEO, Don Simmonds. Don, you have been at a unique event there, and you just spoke at this event of First Peoples of Canada. Tell us about what's going on there in Thunder Bay.
Well, thank you, Ron. Up here in Thunder Bay, where they have been holding an Embrace Life conference, where they're doing their best to focus on the value of life and basically empower and educate and challenge the communities that are in their nation to take hold of the responsibilities for embracing life in their peoples. Now, the Anishinaabe Aski Nation, it consists of 49 communities here in northern Ontario, some 45,000 people spread out over actually two-thirds of the area in the province of Ontario. So it's a very vast, expansive area and very remote. Many of the communities are only fly-in, of course. This conference, Ron, has been happening for 11 years, and it's really gaining momentum again. In fact, this year they actually streamed the conference so that all of the remote communities could participate without the cost of flying in, and it added about another 1,000 participants. So a very significant step that they've taken from a media technology point of view. And in fact, other chiefs from across Canada had been calling in and actually asking them if they could engage in something, help them, I guess, engage in something similar for their communities, which they've asked for our help with, which we're thrilled to do.
Now, Don, the gentleman that's been in the picture that we've been looking at, who is this gentleman?
Yes, well, you're seeing there the deputy chief. His name is Deputy Chief Goyce Kagamic, and he is responsible actually for education, social services, and recreation. So it's really his heart, his vision for this particular conference to call their people together and focus on it. You know, it's interesting because being asked to speak as a white person is very humbling. In fact, I was nervous. I don't mind saying. Who am I really to truly understand what they've been through, and we determined to learn together. I've pledged the continued assistance from our Huntley Street viewers. In fact, I took some 3,000 of the Not Suicide book for students and was able to, in a sense, touch people from various communities to take those back and put them in the right hands. I actually provided also a copy of the documentary Home and Native Land, which we've just completed, and shows positive stories of how God has touched people. And then, Ron, I need to say that I promised to provide a full version of the 10-hour Bible mini-series to each of the 49 communities so they can use that as a resource. Wow. They're very spiritually attentive, and many, many Christians in the band leadership. And this is going to be a fantastic resource for their communities. I showed some of the clips, and they were very well received.
What a fantastic idea! And
you talked to me a week or two ago. I was up for a hockey tournament.
Right.
I have to show you this. There was a photo I took there of actually an Ovechkin fan. I don't know if that's coming up, but
yeah, there it is.
See that? Yep. And then one of our generous 100 Huntley Street supporters knew I was coming back up this week. He arranged for a signed puck and hockey card signed by Alexander Ovechkin. So I was able to meet one of the Sandy Lake leaders. He'll take that gift back and put it in the hands of that little Ovechkin hockey player fan. So wow. I want to thank Paul and Ross Marin for that generous gift.
Of course, you handed out those Not Suicide books at that hockey tournament as well that you were at, where many First Nations young people were there.
Yeah, and of course that whole effort is made possible by the generosity of our viewers, and so appreciative. You know, let's talk about the leaders up here. I've learned a lot. Had so many hours with the leadership. you know, there's a number very committed Christians amongst the leadership here. There's a photo, I think, of Grand Chief Harvey Yesno, very fine Christian man with a tremendous vision for his nation. He's open, he's collaborative, he's visionary. And, you know, he came to Christ some years ago through a visiting Christian hockey team, if you can believe it, coming to his community in Fort Hope. So it was really interesting to hear his testimony and how he's now sort of taking, under his role of leadership, the fact that what happens in one's soul is perhaps at the root of life change and transformation and fulfillment.
Now, Don, I understand you have some video that you sent to us of you presenting a lot of these books, not suicide books. So maybe we can have a look at that right now.
A lot of us experience the impact of losing someone to suicide. I myself lost a lot of loved ones. It still hurts sometimes.
I saw Silas Woodhouse play his guitar on the stage. I saw Johnny Whiskey Chin.
And the man speaking first was a band leader, Paul, from Wiagamal, where they've been particularly affected by suicides in the last year. 4 deaths, one right after another, with some 11 children orphaned. And so Paul was sharing, you know, pretty deeply there. In fact, 2 of his sons had taken their lives in the past. And, you know, he shared his heart with the people. They see that kind of sharing at this conference, actually, as part of, you know, facing that kind of hit on a community, as we know, it can take the heart out of a community, and sharing with each other and trying to come to grips with it verbally is actually part of the healing process for them. You know, I was talking with the deputy chief who was explaining the strategies under his responsibilities, education, social services, recreation, and then he paused. His eyes welled up as he spoke, and he talked about how, you know, what are those strategies without sort of the future of their young people, and they're losing so many young people. Do you know they've had some 470 suicides in the last 10 or 12 years in their communities? If you do the percentages there, it's just virtually no one, no family, no community has been unaffected by the deep grief of this. In fact, there's a photograph there of the principal at the school, the First Nations school here in Thunder Bay. It's a very interesting school because the kids fly out of their communities to come to it. It's the Dennis Franklin Cromartie School, and here's the principal with his wife. So this is Jonathan and Rhonda, and they're standing in front of one of the pictures hanging in the hallways of the graduates, where even as they were proudly introducing them to me, they were forced to point to several that basically had passed away because of suicide even after. And so it really hits all, and everyone's very focused on it. I think there's a photograph also of a gentleman. His name is Jerome Harper. He was singing there also, and we had a chance to interview him. And Jerome made an unbelievable statement. He's from Manitoba, actually. He was a guest, and he's taken the Embrace Life Conference into his own community. In fact, he was away from his community for many years, and just a few years ago, his band chief called him and asked him to return, if he could, to the community and bring Embrace Life. And he was able to report that in the last 3 years that there has not been one suicide, and he directly attributed that to the fact that the people there have embraced the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that was, in my view, a significant moment in this conference where it's so directly affecting the community positively as people embrace God through Jesus Christ and the values and live the way that God intended them to live.
Right.
There's this, I think there may be a photograph of a little baby that was there. It was hard hard not to capture this with some of the folks that I had taken on our Crossroads team. There's several. We're looking for models, Ron, and I believe that the folks are so open to partnership. They don't want to be told what to do, but when we come alongside, love and care and show partnership. Two of the ladies here, one is Sarah, one is Jennifer, that accompanied me standing with the First Nations folks with this baby, represent different churches that are partnering with the different communities to help, and they have repeat visits in the same communities. And I think this is going to be a partnering model for the future. But I thought it would be good to end with this photograph because of the hope that comes as we see a next generation coming. And that's what we're all about. And I want to thank our viewers for their help, because we're going to make a significant difference partnering with First Nations peoples, the Aboriginal peoples of Canada, as we assist more as a mission of ours to assist them in being introduced to Jesus Christ and what that can mean.
Right.
Transforming lives, families, communities, and indeed their nation.
Absolutely. That is the bottom line.